afternoon, and I am at the Daegu Confucian School. I think there's actually another Korean name for it, but that's the American name from the cheat sheet that I have here. Yeah, Hyanggyo Confucian School is the Korean name for it, but this place is actually kind of neat for being out of the way as it is. It's in the middle of Daegu, like it just pops up. And the whole idea of creating this school was to have a center for students to come and learn Confucianism. An interesting thing that I read out of this pamphlet was that this school originally wasn't here. It was actually in another city, but the Japanese feared Confucianism so much during one of their invasions that when they were holding Korea, they actually moved this school here to make kind of like an internment camp almost of Confucian like scholars. And because of that though, this actually became a really high point for Confucianism because all of the scholars came to one area and met up and were able to kind of study with each other. It's kind of what is this place's claim to fame, is not only that, but it also has the largest Confucian library with works from quite a few of their sages, is what they're called. And so right behind me, I'm going to need to read it off here, but right behind me is the Daegu Pavilion, and this pavilion that was built, I don't know, right there, that pavilion that was built was for the sole purpose of schooling. So that's literally where sages would teach the new incoming students to Confucianism. And because of that, it was actually used also as a library, I think is what it said. Oh, no. It was also used as a kind of boarding hall. And so they would actually not only study together, but live together. So everything is actually closed. That's the thing. It's free to get in here. And once I entered, a really friendly lady, like she just comes running out of the gift shop and she grabs a brochure and she comes and hands it to me and she starts speaking in Korean. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Migur, which is how I think you say English. I'm not 100% sure, but it was enough for her to understand that I didn't speak Korean, and she ran and grabbed the English versions before asking me, where are you from? In English. So I'm like, oh, I'm from San Francisco. She's like, oh, my brother lives in Atlanta. I'm like, oh, that's great. That's a real hot place, like Georgia in the South. And she's like, yeah, I went there once in '98. And I'm like, oh, wow, did you have a good time? And she did. We had a little bit more of a conversation than that. It was really nice. I was quite surprised at how good her English was for someone that was a little older, let's just put it that way. And she was really pumped that I was here at Confucian School. Now that being said, everything is kind of like closed up and locked up, and maybe that's because it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon now. I would say that the buildings here are really well maintained. Like everything is really pretty, and I think in a second here I'm going to take out my Leica and start shooting some film shots of it. The black and white's going to come out real nice because of the textures. I do understand everything's in color, but I already took the Sony and took those digital shots. But the one thing that I'm not able to see is the Daesongjin Shrine, and that's actually one of their, that's like for Daegu, it's considered the #1 historic cultural property here. And the importance of that is that it enshrines the ancestral tablets of Chinese and Korean sages. I really don't know what it means. I wonder if that's like the Japanese tablets that they use for people who have passed. But it is a shrine, so that would make sense, right? I'm like trying to put 2 and 2 together. I think that's what it is. Again, it is closed off. Both of the areas just have the gates closed. One actually has chairs in front of it. And one of the funny things is like right in front of it currently, there's some sort of like newborn shoot or something like that, like a family shoot. And they're really trying to get that child to like be a part of that photo shoot. And then lastly, on the other side of the shrine is the lecture hall. Yungdang Lecture Hall is what it's called, and that's actually a later hall that was built just to teach. It was from the Goryeo period to the Joseon period is what it says here, and it's actually where they created new history because of the cultivated moral spirit of the people that settled down in social justices. Man, seriously, just reading right off of this. Oh, more importantly, it was a lecture. Aside from being a lecture hall, that was actually the testing hall. So if you're trying to actually achieve something, that's where you would go. to be tested on your Confucianism knowledge, I guess. I don't even know what it's called. It just says examinations and testing the ability to understand scriptures and for state examinations. Oh, okay, well, state examinations are different. That gives you ranking, if I understand that correctly. And higher ranking equals higher pay, which could be in a few different ways. It could be actual pay, or it could be a reduction in taxes. That could really help your livelihood, I guess you could say. I mean, that's really all there is to this place, is just those three kind of buildings. There's one more area here that is not actually in the brochure, and I don't know what it is, but maybe it's the main school. Like, it looks like a school to me. And if you look at it, it just looks like that's where like students would go in and sit down and learn, at least from like classic K-dramas and whatnot. So maybe that's what it is, but there's no literature on it, unfortunately. One other thing, parking here was insane. This is definitely a place that you definitely want to take a bus to, or try to ride the monorail or the subway if they have one. But like, I had a real scary time driving here, so that was let's just say that I had to actually literally fold the mirrors in on the car to get by some of the streets here. Otherwise, I would have literally hit. Other than that, this place is super peaceful. They had some sort of ceremony going on earlier, and they had all these like gift wreaths up. They're putting them away now, which is kind of funny. So I guess the ceremony is over. I didn't have a chance to read what it said, not that I'd understand anyways, but it's a cool place to come to, particularly because it's free and really just easygoing. So if you have like, I think a half an hour, 45 minutes is really all I need here. I'm going to spend a little longer than that, only for the fact that I'm going to take more video shots and some more photos. Anyhow, until the next vid, I'll see you then.